Hi everyone, JJ here with The Art of Value. Welcome. Well, today we're going to look at the most popular stocks, the top stocks that super investors were buying in Q3 2023 last quarter, and a closer look at some of them. So let's get straight into it. So on the site Dataroma, we have super investor portfolio stats, the top 10 buys last quarter for these super investors. So we can see that the top stocks are Meta platforms, so we can see 11 buys in the quarter, then Alphabet, then Amazon. We've got the big mega cap stocks, the US mega cap stocks being picked up by these big portfolio managers. But it means if they bought them over the last quarter, they have thought that they were cheap enough to buy. Most of these are value investors. We can see that it's Walt Disney Co., Microsoft Corp., United Health Group. So these are pretty popular big stocks. But Thermo Fisher Scientific, be interesting to have a quick look at that. So 7 buys in the quarter. Dollar General, it's had a big drop. We'll have a quick look at that. Apple, of course, Apple's one of the big ones. It's now over 50% of Berkshire's stock portfolio, which is pretty incredible. They haven't sold it down. And Alphabet, again, that's the other class of stock. We have Charter Communications, we have Bank of America, CVS Health Corp, Zimmer Biomet Holdings, I don't know what that is, Truist Financial Corp, Medtronic PLC, so these are some interesting ones that are a bit off the beaten track. Goldman Sachs Group, so 5 investors have bought these in the quarter. JP Morgan Chase, Home Depot, Booking Holdings, so a lot of interest in Booking Holdings. 4 fund managers have bought Booking Holdings in that quarter. Elevance Health, 4 Markel Group, interesting, I'm going to look at that too. 4 investors have bought Markel. I know that Berkshire sold down Markel this quarter, which was a surprise to me, and we'll see what the activity is. General Electric, one that you don't really hear much about these days after its huge decline, but some value being seen there by at least 4. So we're down to 4 buys in the quarter. United Parcel Service, MasterCard. I made a video with Chuck Acra Capital Management, who's been a big buyer over the years of MasterCard, has talked about how much of a moat that has, that company. People still buying that. Liberty Media Corp, Kenvue Inc. I don't know what that is. 4 buying that. See, it's interesting to go down past that top 10. I'm not saying that we should copy. People shouldn't copy these investors. But what's interesting, and Manoj Paprai said this in his latest video too about cloning, how most people don't clone because it's seen as bad to copy. But the idea is to see what some of these top investors are buying, to fish where the fish are, as Charlie Munger has said. So this is fishing where the fish are, and go in and see and reverse engineer. Perhaps if there's a stock that you don't know about, just take a look at what they're buying. So it's really, the cream of the crop, really, and seeing what they're buying and reverse engineering. No point just buying it if you don't understand it. It's got to be in the circle of competence, or, develop a circle of competence and confidence while you're looking into the industry, the sector, the companies, the competition. There are tens of thousands of public company stocks around the world. How do we narrow that down to the best? There are only 10% or less of quality companies. So how to find those? This is a good way of finding out what those are. And people dismiss that. The amount of intelligence, education that's gone into picking these stocks is a great deal compared to most retail investors, for instance. Okay, let's continue. Now, if you're getting value out of this episode so far and you're watching on YouTube or on X or on Rumble, please don't forget to hit that like button to help the algorithms to spread it to more people. Thanks. Progressive Corp, Taiwan Semiconductor. Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway famously bought Taiwan Semiconductor and then sold out, which is a quick turnaround. Buffett changing his mind because of the geopolitical tensions, basically. He was talking about the location. He said it's one of the best companies in the world, but other investors still think that risk is okay. Uber has been a buy in this last quarter for at least 4 investors. Union Pacific, Charles Schwab, Visa, just like MasterCard, those 2 together, and they own both of those companies in Acra Capital Management. RTX Corp, I don't know what that is. Marsh & McLennan, most of these are well-known names, of course. They've already won, as Terry Smith would say. He invests in companies that have already won, and if they've already won, they're usually quite big, they're quite well-known, but he looks into those still, and if they've got a high return on capital employed, that's when he gets interested. And we get to Alibaba Group Holdings. Now, I just made a video of key points that I see in Alibaba's earnings, and we have 3 investors picking that up in the quarter, which isn't a great deal. Some sold, of course, so there's mixed thoughts on Alibaba, and the Chinese situation. Go and look at that video, a recap of earnings and my thoughts on it. I think I've probably said enough about Alibaba in the last few days since earnings. Pinduoduo, I've talked about Pinduoduo too. I don't like Pinduoduo. I looked at the short report. I just don't believe the numbers. Everything just seems too good to be true. But some investors here don't think so. HERC Holdings, Block. Oh, Block is interesting down there that 3 super investors have bought Block this quarter. Further down to the list where only 3 of them are bought. I'm not going to read all of these out. Anything catches my eye at this point that'd be interesting to look at for myself. This is something that I do in my investing. Look at these. So I thought I'd share it with you. Russell 1000 Growth ETF. Now that's interesting. JD.com right down the bottom. 2 investors have bought JD. C Limited. Let's go up to the top of the list now and just investigate further who has actually been buying these. If you'd like to support the Art of Value, you can now go here to buy me a coffee for a small one-off donation. And super thanks is also now activated on YouTube. I'd really appreciate that kind of support. Thanks. Let's just look at the number 1 stock, Meta, and Alphabet's probably more because there's 2 classes of stock there. So really the most popular one for that last quarter is Google, Alphabet. 25 of these investors own Meta, and no doubt many of them bought them on the big dip that happened and now it's gone up again, but people still buying. So I'm interested to see the activity, and we can see that the top activity, David Tepper from Appaloosa Management, still buying, added 29%. It's not a new buy. There are some new buys in there. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Daniel Loeb, and Stephen Mandel all bought Meta. Thomas Gaynor from Markel added 2.4%. But who reduced? Rob Vanel reduced a little bit. Pat Dorsey cut 25%. Yeah, let's look at Alphabet. Ownership count 33. 33 of these investors own Google or Alphabet. I still call it Google. So Li Lu, according to this, the top owner, 18.29%. This is only his US fund. We can look at Ticker Terminal. So Dataroma is only the US portfolios, but here we can see more. One of the best features, I think, of Ticker Terminal is the Track Investor Guru. So we can see international portfolios. I'll put a link to Ticker Terminal in the description here. You can use a referral link if you want to. If I look up Li Lu's, which is Himalaya Capital, we can see his greater portfolio. So we can see that the actual top holding of his is Postal Savings Bank of China, which we would never know if we didn't look at this. Bank of America, number 2. But Postal Savings Bank of China is 30% of his portfolio, which is pretty incredible. Alphabet, see he owned the 2 classes, but 15.3% for one and 12.74% of the other. He may own stocks that aren't in here as well that Ticker doesn't know about. He's talked about owning BYD. Buffett or Berkshire's been selling it down, so it wouldn't surprise me if Li Lu's been selling it down as well, actually, because Li Lu knows Charlie Munger. Invests Charlie Munger's personal money. Li Lu is the only investor that really Charlie Munger trusts to invest for him. That's Ticker Terminal. It's really interesting to see these international holdings. We can see Monash Pabrais holdings in there as well. We'll look at GOOGL. We can see that Bill Ackman added nearly 100%, nearly doubled his position. 2 million shares, which is a change in the portfolio of 2.71%. But he's the top buyer in that last quarter. And Chase Coleman, Tiger Global Management, added quite a lot there. Josh Tarasoff, he's got an interesting portfolio from Greenlee Lane Capital, added 17%. David Katz, Francis Racon, I don't know how to pronounce that, but I'm assuming it's French. Thomas Russo added a little bit. He's also a very good investor. Tom Gaynor from Markel. And I imagine it's much the same for the other stock because people tend to buy some of each. Pat Dorsey, John Armitage, David Tepper again. So some of the similar names. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation bought some there. New buy. Let's look at something that's not known so much. Thermo Fisher Scientific. 7 investors have invested in Thermo Fisher Scientific. Let's go into that and have a look. 10 investors. Chris Holm, who is a well-respected investor too, 5.86% of the portfolio. Walter Wallace, I was going to say Walter White. Wallace White's from the White's Value Fund, 4.71% have added. Thomas Gaynor added 65%, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So TMO, let's look that up. Thermo Fisher Scientific, probably way out of my circle of competence, so that's why I probably don't know much about it. And market cap of, is that 180? Whoa. It's big. Enterprise value of 209. Thermo Fisher Scientific provides life science solutions, analytical instruments, specialty diagnostics and laboratory products, and biopharma services in the United States and internationally. So definitely in the healthcare, bio or pharma sector there, that is out of my circle of competence and confidence. The two go hand in hand, and it's a big company too. As I said, I'm more interested in smaller caps. If we look at the share price, it has been going down recently. So far the bottom was at the end of October, so still it's been going down since they bought it, because remember, this is in the last quarter. This is part of the opportunity with these investors. If you dig into a company and you reverse engineer and decide that it's for you, that it's a good company, and it's gone down, it's actually cheaper than some of these investors got it, then that is an even better opportunity than they got it, if it works out, that is. No guarantees that it's going to work out, not investment advice at all. And also insider buying at the time too. That's interesting to see. If there's insider buying and these super investor buying at the same time, that becomes very interesting, because there's only one reason that insiders buy. They can get stock options, of course, but if they're buying on the open market at a time when the stock price goes down, you know that they have some real confidence in the company. So there are many reasons that people sell stocks, and really only one reason that they buy, that they think the share price is going to go up in the future. No guarantee of when, but they think, if they're long-term investors, they think that it's going to go up in the long term. Dollar General, interesting. Let's have a look. There's been talk about this. Let's see who's been picking that up. Chris Bloomstrand has been buying that. He knows a lot about Berkshire Hathaway. He's been investing for years and has analyzed it really huge amount. He knows a lot about Berkshire and Warren Buffett. Chris Bloomstrand has been buying Dollar General, 175%, 10.19% of his US portfolio. Pat Dorsey has bought Dollar General as well. Seth Klarman, well-known value investor, wrote the book Margin of Safety. So Seth Klarman's increased 283%, 1.91% of the portfolio. We can see here the share price has gone down over the last year. Look at that. And we look at the 5 years. It has gone down quite a lot recently. So a value play. Thomas Gaynor also picking it up. Let's have a look at some of the metrics for Dollar General. Here we are on GuruFocus. I'll also put a link in a referral link in the description. I use GuruFocus all the time. It's got so many metrics, goes back a long way. It's a little bit more pricey than Ticker Terminal, but it has more metrics, and it's value focused. Really useful site. I found it over the years. So it's got a market cap of 26 billion and an enterprise value of 44 billion. So again, a big company, pretty mature, and we can see 435% all time. So going back to 2001, below the high, 53.24%. It is below the peak. These investors think that it's a value play for sure at this point. And we can see that GuruFocus says that it has a value of $274 and it's now $121. So substantial upside there for that, if that is to be believed. But you do have to do your own work. You cannot rely on a site like this. They have certain metrics that they use and certain ways of valuing, or they have different ways of valuing. That's to see the GF value is 274, earnings power value 69, Peter Lynch value 157. So there are different ways of valuing these. DCF they've got here of 227, but I do not rely on a DCF. And we look at some of the metrics here just superficially. As I said, don't take this as gospel. Gross margin 31, like Ticker Terminal as a description. They have a pretty good description. Discount retailer, provides various merchandise products in the southern, southwestern, midwestern, and eastern United States. It offers consumable products. Discount retailer. So part of the thesis of this, I would say, if the US is heading into recession, if it is a recession, this would be reasonably recession resistant. Price is 121. If we go back, 121 was seen there in 2019, November 2019. So being wound back quite a lot there. So some of these investors seeing this as a good opportunity. We can see the return on capital employed is 13.55, which is not bad. Debt to equity 2.86. Well, that's pretty high. Growth rates per share of revenue 10-year 13.2. So that's substantial. 5 years 14.7, 1 year 14.1. So pretty consistent over time. I can probably see how these investors might be interested in this. So going back to January 2008, actually this is a good time because there was a deep recession. So if we go back 2008, pretty consistent through one of the deepest recessions in living memory. It did not dip there because it's a discount retailer, so that would be of interest, I think. That's why it's good to look back this far. And so it's gone from 9.5 to 38 between 2008 and 2023. Return on equity, rising return on equity, return on assets. I think good numbers are pretty good. It helps when the share price has gone down this much because you get that extra boost if it does happen to go back up, even to where it was before. You get that boost. But after that, if it's a long-term hold, can they reinvest at a good rate? I want to have a look at Markel. Who's been buying Markel? Markel is run by Thomas Gaynor, or he's the CEO, and he's also in charge of investments there, overseas investments there. It's not known as a baby Berkshire, and we can see the activity. Who owns Markel is Josh Tarasov, Francois Rocon, Christopher Davis, Thomas Russo, Warren Buffett, and Poland Capital Management. So it was of great interest to me that Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway, bought shares in Markel for the first time. Sort of went under the radar a couple of quarters ago, but they've reduced 66%. So let's see the activity in the quarter for Markel. We have 6 ownership, 6 count, ownership rank 72, and we see the activity for Markel, the baby Berkshire, mid cap, sort of getting larger, but you'd think a lot of compounding to go compared to Berkshire, and with Tom Gaynor there at the helm. Just in this quarter, Josh Tarasov, Poland Capital Management, who is known more for growth, I believe. If they're in the value realm, it's in the growthy side of it. And who reduced? Warren Buffett reduced 66%. I'd want to know the reason why and what they're going to do in the next quarter. You see, they haven't held it for very long. They added in Q1, added 2% in Q2 2022. So they bought in Q1 2022, only in Q1 2022, and they've sold down 66% in Q3 2023. So that's a relatively short-term space of time that Buffett or Berkshire, I don't know if Buffett was responsible for it. It's a pretty small holding for Berkshire in terms of things, big holding for some other funds, but small holding for Berkshire. It's way down their list of stocks. Berkshire needs to find big companies, but Berkshire's been a net seller. So that's some of an overview of what has been bought in the last quarter, just that last quarter, some of the most popular picks from the last quarter. If you look at the metrics, you can kind of start to get an understanding of what they're buying and why they might be buying it. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to put a link here to what YouTube thinks that you should watch next. So go and see that now. And everyone, thanks for watching or listening, and I'll see you in the next one.